Hi guys and ladies, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we're doing this is not a top 10. And I haven't done one of these in a while. This is going to be a long video. Sometimes I just want to talk about perfume. And this video is going to be on the note of amber. And it is April 12th. It's going to be in the 80s this week. And here I am talking about amber. I'm rebelling against modern spring and summer lists. I don't want winter to end. I love my winter fragrances. I love the warm, resinous, thick, heavy fragrances. And so I'm doing it. This is not a top 10 on amber. I've been meaning to do this video for a while. But for whatever reason, it never happened. So we're going to do it in spring, and you guys can watch it whenever you'd like. You want to watch it again when it gets cold next year? It'll be up. I'm never taking these videos down. So this is going to be a long one, so sit back and enjoy. But before we get started, I have to talk about something. Excuse me while I grab this real quick. I got this in a haul yesterday from Amouage, and it leaked a little bit. This is the original. Well, let me take that back. This is the Jacqueline Coquelin. I can't remember her let's see what it is. It's on the bowling green bottle. Jacqueline Coquelin, who JJ, who is very knowledgeable. You'll see him, Colburn, I believe his last name is. You'll see him on forums and all kind of things. I know he now does like maybe podcasts I don't have Instagram or anything like that. But he verified that Jacqueline Coquelin was the distributor of these fragrances from 1980 to 1987. And then I think he said they got bought in and absorbed into Parfum Stern or something like that. If you go to my unboxing video from yesterday, I pinned his comment to the top because it was such great information. Either way, so this, if what he's saying is true, which I have every reason to believe it is, this bottle is pre-1987. So sometime between 80 and 87. This came out in 1975, I believe. 1975. And the first hour or two of this fragrance completely blew me away. Completely. I don't really care for the next 3, 4, 5 hours as much. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to say something that some of you may yell at me for. This smells like a Chanel in this version. Now, I have a newer version, and I did a quick comparison. This is not going to become a comparison video, by the way. I'll do one, but I can't do one right now. I'm too overwhelmed. I'm too in shock by what this is. If you can find a Jacqueline Coquelin bottle when she was the distributor of gray flannel or bowling green, they are amazing, shockingly amazing. They are almost completely different fragrances. They are completely different fragrances from what EA is putting out today. So that's what I have to say about this. One day, once I can wrap my head around this, I will do a comparison video for you guys. But that day is not today. Just know that I wore it. I loved it. For a spring day, I've got a subscriber, his name is Al, and me and Al have talked a couple times offline, and he's told me just how beautiful gray flannel was in the old days. And I said, yeah, I mean, I kind of believed him and listened to him, but I never really realized it until it hit me like a bowling ball today. So that's that. All right, so we're going to do this amber list, and a couple things before we get started. Number one, when people think of amber, they think of that hard resin that comes in the shape of like a jewelry that you can pluck off of a tree or something. The perfume ingredient amber does not come from that amber, just so you know. In fact, I think if you take one of those and light it and burn it, you will get a smell, but it can't be used in perfume, from my understanding. So amber is a creation of, it's an accord basically, that's created using ingredients like labdanum and benzoin and vanilla and, Peru balsams and tonka, stuff like that. So this list was hard for me to make because I'm going off of Parfumo. So if it says amber in Parfumo, it's on the list. Some of my favorite amber fragrances are not on the list because it's ambergris or ambergris, as you're supposed to properly say it. And, you know, or there isn't an amber note. There's a labdanum note, there's a vanilla note, there's a Peru balsam note, whatever it may be. If it's gray amber, that means ambergris. And so those are not on the list. I'll do a separate This Is Not a Top 10 video on ambergris one day, but let me just show you real quick the ones that would have been on the list, but I can't include them. This is called Costume National Soul. Now, Soul is one of my favorite, what I would call almost like a bright, uplifting amber. This is a Dominique Ropion, by the way. This is such a great fragrance. I would totally consider this an amber, but there's no amber in here. There's oud. I think there's labdanum or, you know, something like that. But no actual amber accord, so I can't include it in the list. But I think there's ambergris in here. So when the ambergris video comes, this will come back. But if you like a bright, uplifting amber, check this one out. Next is Dior Miza. There's no amber in Dior Miza. I believe there's ambergris listed in Parfumo. This is what many would consider an amber, one of the true amber fragrances, and Miza is not on the list. The next one that is not on the list, shockingly not on the list, is Maitre Parfume Ombre Presso, which is supposedly one of the classical ambers, and it's not on the list. Ombre Presso does not have the amber note according to Parfumo, so it's not on the list. Amazingly. Let me double check this. I'm pretty sure it wasn't on the list, but now I'm like second guessing myself here. Let's see. Ombre Presso. Verdict is, yeah, not on the list. There's ambergris, there's Peru balsam and Tolu balsam and labdanum. So it creates that amber accord, but it doesn't list amber, so it's not on the list. Shockingly. See, I should have trusted my gut. And then two more that are not on the list, shockingly, is Lea du Desert Marocain. Some consider this one of the greatest amber fragrances of all time. I don't, but it would still be on the list. I like this fragrance. I'm not like some people that don't like this fragrance. I like this fragrance. But it's not on the list. But my favorite Andy Tower is this, Lone Star Memories, which I would also consider an amber, with geranium and other things. Not on the list. So, sadly, these right here, which I would consider like quintessential, like if I made an amber list, these are what I would think of. They're not on the list. So let me just put these away real quick. I'm just going to put them down here for now. And then let's do the actual list, shall we? So let's start. So let's start with a decant, because I would absolutely love to get a full bottle of this. And this one starts with an asterisk because this is called Ombre Nui. And this is one that when I smelled this originally, I didn't think it was amber. I thought it was ambergris. There is this ambergris note that I get in the base of Ombre Nui. Very natural smelling too. If it's a synthetic Ambroxan, it's done very well by Francois Demachy, and this is one of his earlier releases in 2009, so that makes sense. He seemed to be, you know, it really fell apart towards the end of his time at Dior, I would say. 2017, 2018 and on, those Dior, especially the Dior Privés, really went downhill. But early on, there were some amazing ones, Leather Oud and Ombre Nui and stuff like that. So this is one that is a beautiful rose. It's supposed to smell like the garden of Christian Dior. His villa has this beautiful garden. Lovely fragrance, definitely full bottle worthy. I just can't justify the price, but I'll do like an early impression one day when I wear this as my scent of the day. Okay, now one you guys are going to give me a hard time for, but I have to include it. It's Mancera Saharian Wind. And this came out a couple years ago. As you can see, I have a decant because I won't buy any more full bottles of Mancera after the travesty that is Cedrat Boisé. But this has to be on the list because there is this leather, spices with lavender, and then there's tobacco and amber and vanilla in the base with this white musk. And it's that white musk that I think gives off some sort of you know, it'll remind you of Cedrat Boisé, or it'll remind you of that Mancera style, that very very synthetic, harsh. But if you can get past that, if you don't mind the harshness, this is a respectable fragrance. It's better than some things that you will find at Macy's or a department store or something like that. But it's not full bottle worthy, but it's decant worthy. I think it's worth you trying. You might be surprised. It does feel like he has gotten better maybe as a perfumer. But I don't know. It feels like Mr. Montal, or whatever his name is, has improved a bit over the years. This is still probably not full bottle worthy for someone like us, but there's amber in the base, so it's included. Next is a fragrance I despise. I hate this fragrance. In fact, I hate this house. This is a fragrance from Initio called Absolute Aphrodisiac. Absolute Aphrodisiac is a very simple fragrance that will remind you of Yop Homme, the pink juice from the late 80s. I actually prefer Yop Homme over this big time. And Yop Homme is about 1/10 of the price. This stuff goes for hundreds, $300 a bottle. It's absolutely scandalous. It's shocking, as Rich Mitch would say. This is amber, vanilla, musk, and castoreum, but it gives off this warm milk accord. This vanilla warm milk with castoreum. It's absolutely disgusting, at least for my taste. It's super sweet too. It's one of the sweetest fragrances I've ever smelled. Imagine if you took milk, poured sugar in it, and put some beaver glands in there. And normally I love castoreum. Like, I'll wear Antaeus or Antaeus Sport any day of the week, any day. I love it. I love it. I feel great when I wear it. I love castoreum. I love Portos, those kind of fragrances I love. But the castoreum here in a modern niche fragrance, this came out 6-7 years ago, 2015. It's awful. Do not buy this based on hype, on my opinion. If you're into seeing whether you trust my nose or not, get a sample of this and get a sample of the other fragrance I annihilated called Symphonium, and see if you trust my nose. These are absolutely disgusting fragrances. Next is going to be a fragrance that I love and is full bottle worthy, but I've been working off of this decant, and I've only given it a couple full wears, but as you can see, I've made a pretty good dent in the decant. This is a fragrance called Portrait of a Lady. Frederic Mall's Portrait of a Lady. This is 12 years old now. Came out in 2010. It's clove, raspberry, rose, cinnamon, patchouli. Oh, the patchouli in here. The patchouli and rose with sandalwood, frankincense, benzoin, musk, and amber. It is just absolutely amazing. This is such a great fragrance. Some noses that I really trust, like Persolet's, for example. I think this is his favorite Frederic Malle ever. And it's hard to argue with that, but there are some Frederic Malles I enjoy wearing more, if that makes sense, even though I fully respect that Portrait of a Lady is probably a better fragrance. I still enjoy wearing some of these other ones more that are coming up later. Okay, next on the list, and I also have the Eau de Parfum. I'm just going to show you the EDT, but you could go for either one if you would prefer. This is a fragrance by the house of Kurkdjian, and it's called Crazy Kurkdjian. Crazy Kurkdjian, and it comes in this insane bottle that I absolutely love. My EDP is a splash. And this is such a fantastic fragrance. This is a Dominique Ropion, by the way. This is a Dominique Ropion, and people will pay big money for a Portrait of a Lady. This is a Dominique Ropion, and it sits on the shelf at 40 bucks. This is one of the best amber fragrances you can buy for the money. It's aldehydes, basil, bergamot, galbanum, and the galbanum and basil and this green type opening. It really feels like it plays in the area of obsession for women or men. But, you know, it feels very high quality. This came out in 91, so 5-6 years after the obsession craze really came out. And it feels like they kind of took that, but took it to the next level. High quality ingredients, beautiful blend. Dominique Ropion's a master perfumer. And the heart is floral, carnation, jasmine, lily of the valley, rose. And then the base is amber, labdanum, patchouli, sandalwood, tonka, vanilla, cedar, and civet. It's so lovely in the cold. Like, I mean, so glad I found this. And the House of Kurkdjian is worth your time. Trust me. I mentioned how much I love Teatro alla Scala, which is back there somewhere. You know, I mentioned Kurkdjian Uomo. I mean, it is a house worth your time. Now, next on the list, we're going to go to a decant I wish was a full bottle. And then we're going to go to a full bottle I wish was a decant, if that makes sense. This is Maison Francis Kurkdjian's Ciel de Gamme. Ciel de Gamme is, I think, MFK's best amber. Better than the one you're thinking of. Ciel de Gamme is a simple fragrance, but it is so perfectly measured and weighed, and I don't say that very often about fragrances from the house of MFK. This is amber, pink pepper, jasmine, and vanilla. But everything feels so posh, so high quality. The amber here is perfect. I don't think it can be improved upon. I wish I had a full bottle of this, and I wish I had a decant of this. This is Absolute Pour le Soir. Now, I did a first impression on this on my channel. If you go back a couple videos, you will see it. And Absolute Pour le Soir is a fragrance that is discontinued and very hard to come by, so I'm glad I have a bottle. However, there's something about the first, it's almost like a shapeshifter. Someone said it perfectly the other day in the comments. They said, I like it 1 minute and I hate it the next. And that's exactly the way I feel about Absolute Pour le Soir. It's, it is benzoin. Actually, you know what? I'm looking at it now. There is a benzoin, cumin, Bulgarian rose, honey, sandalwood, and frankincense absolute. There's no amber note listed. So this actually should not be on the list. Just Ciel de Gamme. And the one you're thinking about. So I take that back. If you're playing by the rules, Absolute Pour le Soir is not on the list. Although it clearly smells and feels like an amber. Okay, the one that everyone is thinking about is this. This is MFK's Grand Soir. And I don't have a bottle. I have these little 11 ml decants. That's enough for me, especially for a fragrance like this. It says it's Spanish labdanum, benzoin, Siam benzoin, Brazilian tonka, amber, and vanilla. And this is the one everyone loves, but I love Ciel de Gamme. I think this is actually his masterpiece when it comes to amber. This is just okay. It's a little boring to me, to be honest with you. I don't find too much excitement in Grand Soir. Okay, next on the list, we are going to go to an amber fragrance that everyone thinks about when they think about amber. And this is called Calvin Klein's Obsession. Now, Obsession, this is in the old bottle. This is what the old bottle looks like. My bottle has lost the top notes. I feel like the top notes has turned. So I really have to wait, you know, about an hour to get what Obsession really was. I miss kind of that green top. This also has green basil, peach, vanilla, cedar, oak moss, amber, stuff like that. And someone else told me in the comments that they also have trouble finding old Obsession, that they've bought bottles that have turned. So maybe it's the ingredients. I'm not 100% sure. But be careful buying vintage bottles with that one. Next is another Francis Kurkdjian. And this is long discontinued, but rumored to be brought back soon. This is Gaultier 2 by the house of Jean-Paul Gaultier. JPG, as we will so eloquently call it. And this came out in 2005 when it was popular. You know, it was, the CK1 fad was about a decade old, but the whole 2 thing was that men or women could wear this. This is a very simple fragrance. It's amber, musk, and vanilla. MFK does simple fragrances good. Amber, musk, and vanilla. This is a 120 ml bottle. And so don't pay big money for this on the discounters because it is being brought back. Whether it will be brought back in the same form, I don't know. But it is being brought back. So something to keep in mind. 2 Pradas coming up. Both fantastic, by the way, for designers. And one actually has amber in the name, and one doesn't. So the first one is going to be Prada Amber Intense. You can see the notes right there. I don't know if you can read those, but it's basically amber, bergamot, myrrh, patchouli, vanilla. And the sprayer on my bottle broke, unfortunately, so I have to be very careful with it. So what I did is I decanted some, but you can see I still have a respectable amount left. It's about right here. And I'm not sure if this is still available or if it's discontinued. There's rumor that the next one is discontinued, but I'm not sure what's going on with the House of Prada. But I know that if you want kind of this oriental type take on a fragrance, but soapy, Prada does very soapy fragrances very well. And this has this soapy amber vibe to it that I actually like over the original. Rich Mitch loves the original, and I like the original too. I have smelled it before, but I don't own a bottle of just Prada Amber. Next is Prada L'Homme Intense. I like Prada's black bottles, as you can see. And L'Homme Intense is the one that is rumored to be discontinued. Ashton did a video on it 6-7 months ago, I believe. L'Homme Intense is Prada's take on an iris fragrance. So think Dior Homme, right? There's iris, amber, patchouli, and tonka. And this is a very wearable. Both of these, Amber Intense and L'Homme Intense, are very wearable designers that are interesting. These are the 2 from Prada I went for, but from trusting Rich Mitch's nose, he loves Prada Amber as well. So that might be one to put on the radar. It has amber in the name. Okay, next is a fragrance that I hunted down a vintage splash bottle of. This is Estee Lauder's Knowing. And I've talked about this fragrance before. The house of Estee Lauder put out absolutely fantastic fragrances in the old days. Azure is one of my favorite leather chiffres of all time. This is a floral chiffre that has plum, mimosa, pittosporum, rose, tuberose, jasmine, orange blossom, patchouli, amber, oak moss, sandalwood, vetiver. The oak moss in these old bottles of Estee Lauder really pop. I mean, you know, when you first smell a fragrance like Knowing or Azure that has heavy oak moss in the base, it really stands out. It really, you know, it really feels like you're smelling something from the past, because you don't smell oak moss in those quantities nowadays. So the oak moss, when it's amped up like that, really gives off that, it almost like it tickles your nose kind of vibe, and you can't recreate that. Next is a Serge Lutens, not the one you're thinking about. That's going to come up later. This is called Cher Guy. Cher Guy is one of my favorite tobacco fragrances of all time. It used to be a Fragcom darling. Everyone used to talk about Cher Guy, and then it kind of started to fall by the wayside, if you will. Came out 21 years ago, which is unbelievable. Christopher Sheldrake is the perfumer. This is one of my favorite creations from him ever. This is hay with honey, iris, leather, tobacco, sandalwood, rose, frankincense, and amber. And the amber actually plays a critical role here. When most people think about amber, they think about the other Serge Lutens fragrance. But amber plays a critical role in this fragrance as well. And that juice is just absolutely stunning. So that is Cher Guy. Next, and by the way, it's getting dark out, so if it looks like it's getting darker in this room, it's because it is. So I will turn the light up, but just know that it's dark in here. It's getting darker, so I hope you all can see this okay. Let's see if I have a light I can turn on to help the process. Maybe it'll help, maybe it won't. Okay, next is going to be a discontinued fragrance that I believe Amouage from Enchanté still has a bottle of, but it's expensive and it's rare. I passed on it because it was a little bit too proud for my taste, although I would love a backup bottle of this. This is a fragrance by the House of Escada called Magnetism for Men, and you can see where my juice level is. It's right there. So I've got about 30% of this 100 ml bottle left. And this is a fantastic designer fragrance. It came out 18 years ago, and the perfumer is Michel Almerac, master perfumer. I did a perfumer's portfolio on him on my channel. You can check that out if you would like. This is designer style leather with vanilla, saffron, sandalwood, musk, tolu balsam, pepper, and amber. And it's so good. It's such a, you kind of get this cola vibe up top, but it's just a great designer fragrance to wear. It's so different. This would be niche today, you know. That old saying of niche before there was niche. This would be niche today. But it does give off that designer. You know how Midnight in Paris gives off that designer vibe? Escada Magnetism gives off that designer vibe. Okay, next we're going to go to an Hermes fragrance, and this is a very simple but beautiful creation, and underappreciated. Not enough people talk about this. This is called Voyage Parfum. This is Voyage de Hermes Parfum. And this came out a decade ago. Hard to believe it was a decade ago. This is basically 3 or 4 notes to my nose. Amber, juniper berries, sandalwood, and cardamom, or some sort of spice. Nutmeg, cardamom, nutmeg. There's something spicy in the background that's not listed as a note on Parfumo. But I never bought La Nuit alone because I own this. And so even though they're different fragrances, the spiciness here, the cardamom, I think there's cardamom in this. It reminds me a bit of La Nuit alone. And so I just decided to stick with this, and Hermes makes better fragrances than YSL under L'Oreal anyways. So, and this can still be had at a respectable price in a beautiful bottle. Love the design idea. Next is a discontinued fragrance, go figure. This is by one of my favorite old school perfumers, Gerard Anthony, and this is called Balenciaga Cristobal pour Homme. This is probably the most designer fragrance that Gerard Anthony ever did. The most designer smelling. However, this has notes that I love in the cold weather. It has Artemisia, so it's a little green. Coriander keeps that greenness going with coffee and tea, which I don't think I know of another fragrance that uses coffee and tea. White pepper, geranium, so it gives off a little bit, even though it's an amber, the amber, benzoin, tobacco, and vanilla are in the base. It has that designer vibe, but it's very well done. Someone once told me this smells similar to Givenchy's pie, which I've never smelled, or if I did, I can't remember it. But Cristobal pour Homme is an amazing designer. 22 years ago that came out, when designers were, this is what was coming out in the designer game. Awesome stuff back then. So Cristobal pour Homme is the next one. And then we're going to do a couple Amouage. Amouage uses amber in, I feel, many of their compositions. I didn't want to name them all. I've done a perfumer's portfolio video on my Amouage collection. You can check that out if you don't want to sift through my entire collection video. But the two I'm going to highlight, one is Interlude. This came out in 2012, I believe, 2012. Pia Negrin is the perfumer. This is this amazing, I love this fragrance so much. This is amber, obviously, or it wouldn't be on the list, but it's oregano in the opening, which is an insane note to add to a fragrance of this caliber. Pimento, oregano, amber, apopanax, frankincense. It stays very true to the Amouage DNA, if you will. Leather, oud, patchouli, sandalwood in the base. The patchouli is, I love this fragrance. It smells like you're in like a Chinese opium den or something. And people are just, there's smoke rising all around you. It's insane. If you want one, if you just can't wear opium, if you can't wear opium, opium's coming later. If you can't wear Interlude, but you want something a little bit more wearable in that same DNA, Amouage released a flanker called Interlude Black Iris. And Interlude Black Iris was one of the first releases under the new creative director, Renaud Salmon, I believe his name is. Not really a fan of where the House of Amouage is going, I'm sorry. Maybe they'll turn things around, but I am not impressed at all. I miss Christopher Chong. No offense to you, Renaud. But they've toned down that oregano in the opening, which people complained about. I think it's still there, but it's less. They added rosemary and violet leaf to the bergamot, and they really amped up the Orris Absolute, which is a very expensive ingredient. And this does smell expensive to my nose. And it is vanilla, myrrh, cistus, frankincense, leather, oud, patchouli, sandalwood, and cedarwood. And what's interesting about these two, by the way, amber is usually a base note. These, actually, amber is listed in the heart, in the mid. So I found that interesting as I was kind of doing research for this video. If you were someone that wanted to wear Interlude all year round, if that's your thing, and this is a every now and then perfume for me because of the heavy smoke, you could wear the original in the winter, and you could wear Black Iris when it's warmer. Although this may even be a little much for most people in the warmer weather, but wear whatever you want. I've learned that. I stopped following seasonal trends in perfume. Okay, Next, we're going to do a fragrance that I talked about in my Alberto Morillas Perfumers Portfolio video recently. This is from the house of Romeo Gigli, and it's called Per Uomo. And this is a beautiful amber fragrance. I consider this kind of like this spicy, woody amber fragrance because, you know, Romeo Gigli, I believe, is an Italian house, but they created a fragrance that's almost like anti-Italian because it has a lot of the Italian, you know, touches. There's aldehydes, tarragon, grapefruit, lavender. There's this lemon tree accord with balsam fir, but they also added heavier touches like honey, cinnamon, amber, tonka, benzoin, vanilla, styrax, that kind of thing. And you can tell this is old school Alberto Morillas. Current Alberto Morillas, I don't think would release something like this. This is created for a different time. This is 1991. So we're talking 31 years ago. It's been a while. This, I do have the vintage bottle that I scored from Amouage at Enchante, so I can't speak to modern formulations. I don't think it's even available anymore. I think it's discontinued. But if you can find an older bottle, I would implore you to try this. This was a surprise for me. This is one of those blind buys that I bought strictly just based on knowing the fragrance and reading the notes and knowing it's an old school fragrance and knowing it's a vintage and knowing that Amouage has stored it properly. That's one of the advantages of working with someone like Amouage. Next, we're going to do a Tom Ford. I've got 2 Tom Fords for you on this list. One is probably expected, one is not expected. And the one that's not expected is this. This is Tom Ford's Tuscan Leather. Now, everyone knows this is a leather fragrance, and it obviously is. It's one of my favorite leather fragrances. I love this DNA. Came out in 2007, so 15 years ago. And it's this DNA is played out, I think, to some people. They think it's overdone, too many people copied it. I have a fragrance that came out in 2010 by Clive Christian called C for Men, which smells very close to this, but with even more high quality ingredients and, you know, more intricacies, like they filled in all the lines. But I also hear this has been reformulated. So I am going to cherish the juice level is right about there. So I'm going to cherish my bottle because I absolutely love this stuff. But with the current reformulations and stuff like that, I don't think I would buy a new bottle. This is raspberry, saffron, thyme, jasmine, frankincense. The base is where the amber kicks in with the leather, black suede, woods. There's these woody touches in the base, and then the amber is a part of the perfume not many people think about because they're so focused on the leather and suede, which as it should be, because that leather, suede, that cigarette accord with that, you know, fruity, almost like a fruit puree, like a raspberry puree. It's so beautiful. I absolutely love this stuff. And sometimes I just have to wear this. Even when it's hot, I just have to. I just get that urge, and I just have to wear this fragrance. Or Clive Christian C. Okay, next, we're going to do the Tom Ford that you probably thought would be on the list. This is a 10 ml decant of Tom Ford Noir Extreme. Now, this is apparently a very popular fragrance. Parfumo says it is in the top 10. It's the 9th most popular fragrance in all of men's perfume, which is kind of interesting to me. I knew Tom Ford was popular, but this is a very sweet, almost gourmand, but not. I wouldn't call this really a gourmand. Maybe you would have to call it a gourmand because of that, you know, kulfi ice cream thing going on, but it's narrowly saffron, cardamom, nutmeg, kulfi, mastic rose, jasmine, orange blossom, and the base is where you get the amber, sandalwood, and vanilla. And the amber is a big deal in this fragrance. It really, really holds everything together. I like it, but as a person that doesn't love sweet fragrances, I don't love this. I much more prefer to wear something like Tuscan leather. Okay, next is a fragrance that I have said publicly I think is Thierry Vasso's best fragrance ever. This is a fragrance called Furyo. And Furyo is one of those old school 80s fragrances that I absolutely adore. This, Kouros, Antaeus Sport. I would even bunch Rocco Barocco Joint from the early 90s in that list. Oh my God, I just love, even though this is synthetic civet, Civetone, whatever you want to call it, I love this fragrance. I love wearing it. I love the way it develops on me. I love the way it smells. I just cherish every second of wearing this fragrance. I have 600 ml bottles. I never want to be without this stuff. And Furyo is this ambrette, coriander, lavender. There is a very old school carnation and geranium note that really plays off of the cinnamon, and then the base is amber, loads of oak moss, loads of civet. This is one of the most tenacious, heavy, this fragrance does not quit. It goes and go. It'll last all day. It'll last through the shower. Vanilla, patchouli in the base. It is amazing. One of my favorite vintage masculines to wear. And again, I'm going to wear this in the summer this year. I usually have not, but I am going to make myself wear that, and I'm going to make myself wear Kouros and Antaeus in the summer and see how they go. Okay, let's do a couple decants. First, we're going to do Erosia Dove, which this one is Fortnum and Mason, the perfume. The perfume parfum. But this is one of those Erosia Doves that if money was absolutely no issue for me, I would buy a bottle of this, because I really like, it's almost like this fruity floral Shifa that you can wear. This you could easily wear in the heat, even though there's things, it opens with this citron, and lemon and bergamot citrus notes. And then you get his patented floral heart, which I've said before, May rose, jasmine from grass, geranium, orange blossom, all that good stuff. Cistus labdanum, which he loves. And then there's this peach note. The base is oak moss, benzoin, birch, frankincense, castoreum, musk, labdanum, vanilla, vetiver, coriander, saffron, patchouli, amyris, sandalwood, and amber. And this does smell very posh. I think this would smell absolutely stunning on a woman. This would smell, I mean, you know, she would control the room wearing this. And this is my beef with Erosia Dove. This is my problem is, you know, he puts them in these bottles, bedazzles it with the cap, and sells it for $800 or whatever this goes for. I have no clue. $700, $600, $500, whatever it is. Whatever it is, it's absurd, the pricing. But he's created this Veblen good where people want it. It's like, you know, you see a Rolls Royce. If you didn't know what a Rolls Royce was, if you came from another world, you would just see car. But because you know it's a Rolls Royce and it costs $350,000, you inherently want that. And that's what he's created with these perfumes. They do feel like they use the highest quality materials. You know, it does feel like Erosia Dove really loves what came before, but, you know, some of the fragrances being so close to perfumes from the past, and the pricing model is, you know, it's a bit of an issue for me. The next one is one that I like even less than Fortnum and Mason. This is not full bottle worthy. In fact, if someone gave me a bottle of this, I would sell it and buy a bottle of Diaghilev. But this is a fragrance called Shifa Extraordinaire. And the whole point of Shifa Extraordinaire was for him to create a proper Shifa fragrance that had no oak moss in it. If IFRA regulated oak moss down to 0, could you create a fragrance with no oak moss? So this is a floral Shifa fragrance, and it is a beautiful floral Shifa fragrance, but there's no soul to this fragrance. There's no, I like Diaghilev because it's dirty. It has that cumin, it has that civet, that animalic side, it has that extra something. And this is lacking that heavily. This is very clean. I would give this to a woman that doesn't like the dirty fragrances like Diaghilev, Eau de Hermes. Those kind of fragrances turn her off. I would point her to something like this. If money was no issue, and she just wanted one of the most exorbitantly expensive fragrances, Shifa Extraordinaire would be for that person. But what I love in Shifras is the exact opposite of that. I like it mossy and dirty. This is floral, clean, fruity, and ambery in the base. And the notes go on forever. I won't read them. Some of the main notes are heliotrope, peach plum, sandalwood, leather. There is a leather civet in the base, but I get no dirtiness. And then, of course, amber and iris and oak moss, patchouli, cumin, clove. It goes on. Aldehydic opening. So, is it a good fragrance? Yes. But this is one of those purple cap exclusives where he sells these for like, I don't know, $1,500 or something. And it's absurd. It's absolutely insane. I would rather wear Mitsuko than this, to be honest with you. Okay, next, we're going to do a discontinued fragrance, go figure. This is Versace Man. Versace Man. And this is a tester, so I do not have a cap. I'll show you the notes. They are right there. So the notes are neroli, bergamot from Calabria, angelica flowers, black pepper, saffron, cardamom, amber, living tobacco leaves, better than dead tobacco leaves, labdanum cysts, and cashmere woods, oriental, spicy, woody. Okay. So this is another one of these very good designer fragrances from 20 years ago. This came out in 2003. This came out in 2004, Escada Magnetism, right? So they are, in that same time frame when designers were still good. Ditto for Balenciaga Cristobal. And Versace Man is probably one of the best Versace releases, to my mind, of all time. Oud Noir is also good. It feels like it borrows a little bit from this DNA. Dreamer is an okay fragrance by Versace, but the House of Versace doesn't have very many that turn me on, except for they have one banger that I would pick over, I would say, over and above all the other Versaces, and that's Versus Uomo. That fragrance I absolutely love, but then you got to go back to the 90s. So this is 2003. What I like about this fragrance is this feels wearable anytime because it has this fresh Angelica, which is in Royal Oud, and I love Angelica. I adore the note of Angelica. I don't think I've ever come across a fragrance that has Angelica in it that I dislike. I think everything with Angelica in it that I've smelled, I really enjoy. It does something. It adds a twist to the fragrance. Bergamot, black pepper, neroli, with cardamom and saffron in the mid. And then the base is amber, cashmere woods, labdanum, and tobacco. And for just a designer that used to be able to get for 30 or 40 bucks, now this goes for hundreds. Don't pay hundreds for this. If you're going to pay hundreds, get Versus Uomo, in my opinion. But, if you have Versus Uomo, or, if you're on a collection kick, if you're a collector like I am, this is one to put on the list. It is a good old school designer. Great example of what these old designers used to be. Speaking of old designers that have amber in the base, amen. I I've shown this bottle before, so I don't want to get too boring and keep showing the same ones, but that's when it said Angel Men. So this is a vintage from the 90s. Jacques Huclier is the perfumer, one of my favorite designers of all time. The designers in the night, you know, the designers in the old days were so much different than the crap they're giving us now. This is one of the best patchouli, coffee, amber, benzoin, sandalwood, styrax, honey. Oh, the honey in here. I mean, and the thing about this too is all of the flankers, like a taste of fragrance or pure malt or pure Havana. I love them. I absolutely love wearing them. So, amen. Fantastic fragrance. Okay, next we're going to go to the house of Karl Lagerfeld. He has 2 amber fragrances on this list. The first is we'll do the original first. The first is Lagerfeld Cologne. Now, Lagerfeld Cologne is what the fragrance used to be called before they changed it to Lagerfeld Classic. If you can find the version that says Lagerfeld Cologne like that, that's what you want. Lagerfeld Cologne. I've said this before, I'll say it again. This is one of my favorite spicy oriental fragrances with amber for men ever, of all time. I love the way it wears. I love the, especially in the vintage. The new version is okay. It still retains the heart of the fragrance, but it lost all of the, manly animalic facets of this fragrance. Because this fragrance can go a little bit powdery, but in the old days, it was offset with a huge slug of oak moss and a big dose of heavy tobacco. And, you know, it gave off that vibe, and you kind of lose that in the new one. So if you can get an old bottle, trust me, Lagerfeld Cologne is absolutely stunning for the winters. 1978. Now, if you fast forward to 1986, they released this called KL Homme in the beautiful whiskey looking glass decanter bottle. And this has that same, sorry, there it says KL Homme. Now you can actually read it. This has that same orange DNA running through. It has rosewood, which I love rosewood. I talked about the rosewood rosary beads that my mother used to have, carnation, geranium, patchouli, cinnamon, and then the base is amber, benzoin, musk, vanilla, and civet. So the civet is a little bit amped up in this one. One of my subscribers actually bought a bigger bottle than this. This is a 75 ml, I think. This is 60 ml. I think he bought the 125 ml. And he reported back that even though he spent a lot of money, he really loves it. And he's glad he got a bottle while he could, because stock is dwindling. So, fantastic fragrance. Great amber. Lagerfeld does amber. These two are kind of like, you know, brothers. They are 2 peas in a pod. Okay, let's go to the house of Frederic Malle. Let's see if we can keep this close to an hour. Next, we're going to do the house of Frederic Malle. And in 2016, they released a fragrance called Monsieur. And I love this fragrance. You know, it's something that a heavy-handed perfumer like Bruno Jovanovic just absolutely knocked out of the park. They used a special distillation on the patchouli. So the technique that they used gave them a patchouli that smells very unique. Doesn't smell like every other patchouli fragrance, but you can tell it's a patchouli fragrance. With this rum and tangerine note in the opening, and then frankincense, amber, suede, vanilla, musk, and cedar in the base. Absolutely beautiful fragrance. I love it to death. I'm glad that I've got a 100 ml bottle, because when it gets cold and I want a patchouli, but I don't want to wear, you know, just patchouli antique or something like that, Monsieur. Fantastic juice. Now, 2 other Frederic Malles. One I really love, and one I'm coming around to, but I'm glad I have a bottle. The one that I am just in love with right now, and I plan on wearing a lot now that the weather is kind of coming our way and getting a little bit warmer. I thought I grabbed the wrong bottle for a second. Is this. This is called Music for a While. So Carlos Benaim did Polo Green from 1978. He did Dunhill Icon, and he did this. Those are my three favorite Carlos Benaim fragrances. And for him to do Polo Green and Music for a While just shows how insanely adaptive of a perfumer he is. This is one of my favorite fougères of all time, period. It's not a traditional fougère. It's not Gucci Nobile or Bon Monsieur by Rogue, or it doesn't have that traditional fougère DNA. It's not Azzaro pour Homme. This is one of the best modern fougères of all time. Rich Mitch says the lavender in this is the same lavender as Beau de Jour. I will trust his nose there. Patchouli, amber, vanilla, pineapple, mandarin orange. Best pineapple note in the game, in my opinion. Better than Aventus. I love Aventus. I have 4 bottles of Aventus. But it doesn't have a pineapple note like this. The pineapple in this is so perfectly done, and then it just falls into that fougère DNA. I wouldn't be surprised if there was geranium in here. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a touch of coumarin. So Music for a While is, I won't say a masterpiece, but it is well above your average fragrance. It's something special, and I can't wait to wear it more now that it's spring and summer. The one that I'm a little iffy on, just because it goes so sweet, almost gourmand, almost like you're wearing a Cinnabon, is Musk Ravageor. I'm glad I have an older bottle with the matte black cap because it's more animalic than the new stuff. The new stuff is even more gourmand. This came out 22 years ago. It has this cinnamon lavender. Some people don't like the lavender in this fragrance. They say it's too old school. But I don't have that association because I love old school fragrances. But if you only wear new stuff, the lavender in this might seem a little, like your father's generation or something. But then they mix the citruses, lavender, and cinnamon with amber, vanilla, and musk, sandalwood, and patchouli. And the musk here is what everyone else loves. It's the amber and cinnamon that I think really give it that Cinnabon-like, the Cinnabon-like, vibe. But thank God this one's a little bit more animalic because it saves it from going into pure gourmand. So I'm glad I have an older bottle. I'm glad I have the fragrance, but it's not my favorite. I actually would much rather wear Music for a While, or Monsieur, or even Promise. So that is the Frederic Malls. Now we're going to go to just one more decant. I put it closer to the end because I think this is an amazing modern amber fragrance. It was done by Cecile Zarokian in 2014. From 2010 to 2014 or 15, she got off to a rock star start. And then lately, some of the things she's put out, I'm not the biggest fan of. Material, she did Ani, but she did this, and I love this fragrance. I wish I had a full bottle. It's Mask Milano's Tango. Sorry, we got a bad reflection. But it's called Tango. And Tango is this spicy, resinous, deep fragrance with a lot of depth, and it's very well made. And the materials smell absolutely amazing to my nose. The damask rose in here, jasmine sambac absolute, just mixed with the spices, pepper, cardamom, cumin, patchouli. There is this sweet clover absolute in the base with benzoin, leather, amber, vanilla, tonka. My God, I love this fragrance for winter, and I believe I have a second one of these lying around somewhere. So I wish I had a full bottle, but 2 decants ease the pain But I think this is one where I would totally pony up and get a bottle of. Okay, next is going to be a Davidoff that actually has amber in the name. And this is a good line. It's unfortunate that the line didn't sell well, and I don't know if it's still if it's available or whatever, but it's called Amber Blend by the House of Davidoff. And Amber Blend, they also have like Leather Blend and stuff like that. But this is just a fantastic traditional amber fragrance that they created that amber accord using Peru balsam. And it smells like maybe a little bit of vanilla and stuff like that, but they've modernized it with rum, absolute, cinnamon, nutmeg, and sandalwood. I love this amber fragrance for if you want to wear just a traditional amber, a proper amber, this is one that I would put on the list. And a couple more coming up soon. Okay, let's go back 20 years again, 20 years or so. 2002, 20 years. And we're going to go to the house of YSL this time, when Tom Ford was the creative director. This is the original M7. I went and got this out of storage for you guys. And you can see it's a tester. It has the notes on the back right there. Bergamot, oud, vetiver, amber. Simple fragrance composition. There's also maybe some rosemary or something like that with some musk. But I love this fragrance. And this version is discontinued. They re-released it in 2011 in this bottle called Oud Absolute. Whatever this gentleman's line is, where the cap sits sideways. And now I think even this is discontinued, if I'm not mistaken. But M7 is a creation by Alberto Morillas and Jacques Cavalier. And it's just a very easy to wear Western oud. It is, they added some things in here that aren't in the original. Like they added labdanum, myrrh, and mineral notes and stuff like that, but it still gives you the same impression. But I like the fact that this one, you get more of like this cola vibe in the opening. And so I usually wear this in the colder weather, but maybe I'll try to wear it in the warmer weather one day as well. But one of the best designers of all time. I love that fragrance. It's so resinous and deep, and I love what they did with that fragrance. Even though it's not a true oud, like Oud Maximus or Oud Monarch, those are real oud fragrances to me. It's still very enjoyable to wear. Next is a out-and-out amber that I discovered by accident. And this is a Jean-Claude Elena. And if you said, Ramsey, I just want an amber. I just want a amber fragrance. This is probably one of the ones that I would recommend. And then another one's coming up very soon. This is called L'Eau d'Ambre Extrême by L'Artisan Parfumé. Let me tell you something. This fragrance right here took me by surprise. If you just want a beautiful take on amber, this came out in 2001. This is a spicy amber, basically, which is my favorite type, because my favorite amber is coming up at the end. It's a spicy amber fragrance. This is pepper, mace, nutmeg, cardamom, Turkish rose, patchouli, tonka, benzoin, sandalwood, musk, vanilla. And I was just actually looking at the notes now. There's no amber listed, so this one can't be on the list. L'Eau d'Ambre Extrême cannot be on the list because amber's not in the notes. I can't believe that, but you get the idea. If you can break the rules, if you're not playing by my mythical rules, this is one to. This one shocked me with how good it is. I was not expecting it. Just straight amber fragrances are boring to me sometimes. Grand Soir is one I mentioned earlier. It's a little boring. This is more interesting than Grand Soir. Believe it or not. At least in this older packaging. I don't know about reformulation or anything like that. Okay, now we're going to go to two of the best Orientals of all time, two of the most classic Orientals of all time. This is Estee Lauder's Youth Dew. My God. Josephine Catapano released this. This is aldehydes with this floral, fruity, peach, lavender, clove, carnation, orchid, cinnamon, and then amber, benzoin, oak moss. By the way, the oak moss, I mentioned the oak moss in knowing the oak moss here is just, it just pops. It gives you this, it does something to the way your nose smells the fragrance that if you remove the oak moss, it would be very noticeable. And that's part of the problem with modern perfumery. If you really love smelling true oak moss, one of the best cheap ways to smell true oak moss, if you can't just go afford a bottle of Soir, is you can go get Corm, get vintage Corm, or you can go get an old bottle of opium. Or an old bottle of Youth Dew. Now, I mentioned opium because opium, not really copied, but they heavily borrowed from Youth Dew. So opium is next. Amber is in the base in Youth Dew, by the way, and it's also in the base in opium. This is one of my favorite Orientals of all time. This is the opening of clove and plum with orris and rose, amber, myrrh, apopanax. It's stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. Tolu balsam, vanilla, cistus. Amazing. Okay, last two. First is going to be Habanita, the EDT. The EDT is discontinued, but you can still get the Eau de Parfum, and I hear it's still quite amazing. Oh God, I wore this the other day, like maybe within the last month or so, to my parents' house, and I absolutely loved it. It's this galbanum opening with heliotrope. The heliotrope here is beautiful. Rose centifolia, jasmine from grass, nutmeg, ylang ylang, cedarwood, amber, oak moss, vanilla, sandalwood, musk, and patchouli. The amber in the base is stunning, and even though there's no tobacco note, you get this tobacco vibe. It gives off a little bit of this smoky feel somehow. There's no frankincense. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Maybe the labdanum in the base. Maybe the mixture of, the patchouli and oak moss. Vetiver, I don't know, but I'll tell you what, that smoky, ambery, it's so good. And just because it's released for women, don't let this scare you guys. This and Shalimar and stuff like that, those really old school fragrances are a must. For every guy that's really diving into the perfume world, must. You have to get your nose on classics like this. Last, my favorite amber of all time, easily, hands down, Ombre Sultan. I told you Rich, Mitch, and I agree on many things. We agree on Ombre Sultan. It is the best spicy Oriental amber ever. It has that, you go to your grandma's house and smell the spices in the rack. There's oregano, bay leaf, Tolu balsam, benzoin, angelica root, amber, coriander, labdanum, patchouli, sandalwood, styrax, Tolu balsam, and vanilla. And the amber here is done so well. It's done to perfection. If I could only keep one amber fragrance, it would be Ombre Sultan. So I know this went over an hour. I tried to keep it at an hour. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, guys. Let me know if there's some... Obviously, one thing I wanted to say is... amber is a note that is ubiquitous. I bet I could have put 25, 50 more fragrances in this list. I didn't. I wanted to keep it relatively small, but that's the whole point of this is not a top 10. I don't want to just do top 10 lists. I want to do lists that really showcase the ingredient and talk about it and learn about it and all that good stuff. And so... I don't want to be limited by a top 10 list, or I don't want to put lists out just to do lists. I want to do videos I want to do. And, somebody made a joke the other day in the comments and said, hey, if you put your videos on 1.75 speed, it's not so bad listening to your hour videos. But All joking aside, I appreciate the time you spend watching me. I'm really enjoying making these videos. Do comment down below because I love interacting with you guys. It's my favorite part of doing these videos is interacting and learning and talking, getting to know you guys. So put a comment, like and subscribe if you can. It does help. It helps me compete with the big boys and girls that don't love perfume as much as I do. You don't have to, obviously, if you don't want to. That's not why I'm here. I don't judge my success by likes or by subscribers. But it does, I think it does help. And I'm starting to see that traction. I'm starting to see people that say, hey, I found you because Wafts from the Lofts video recommended you. Or, you know, it came up in my playlist. Or, you know, something like that. So the likes and the subscriptions and the comments help with that algorithm. It's going to help. The way I look at it is you're helping out a channel that is completely against the establishment, the perfume establishment. I will tell you to look at discontinued fragrances. I will tell you that $1,500, $1,800 Rojas aren't worth it. You know, I'll tell you those things. I'll give you my honest thoughts. So if you're a perfume lover, supporting my channel will hopefully further that goal. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. Sorry to release an amber. This is not a top 10 in spring, but like I said, I do like to go against the grain, put it on the watch list, watch it when it gets cold, or do what I'm going to do. Wear amber fragrances even when it gets hot. So cheers, guys. Have a good evening, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.